Hello students, welcome to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about preparation reactions of alkanes from the chapter hydrocarbons of grade 11. Let's get started without any more delay. We are over here talking about alkanes in particular, but then to understand this video or this particular topic better, we would have to recap the classification of hydrocarbons once. So let us quickly recap that. Hydrocarbons are those organic molecules which contain only carbon and hydrogen in their molecular formula, and these hydrocarbons can be classified into two types based on their structure. The first type of hydrocarbons are open chain hydrocarbons, which are also called as aliphatic hydrocarbons. And the second type are called closed chain aromatic hydrocarbons, which are also in short called as aromatic hydrocarbons. So basically aromatic hydrocarbons are the closed chain hydrocarbons which follow a particular rule called as Huckel's rule. And anyway, these aliphatic hydrocarbons can be further classified into two types based on the saturation. In case they contain all the single bonds all through the structure, then you call them as saturated hydrocarbons. And in case there is at least one double bond or at least one triple bond present in the structure, you call them as unsaturated hydrocarbons. Saturated hydrocarbons are also called as alkanes, and these are the molecules which contain only carbon-carbon single bonds all through the structure. On the other hand, these unsaturated hydrocarbons are the ones which contain at least one double bond or one triple bond, isn't it? So based on if they are containing the double bond or triple bond, we classify them further. Unsaturated hydrocarbons can be classified into alkenes if they contain all the single bonds but at least one double bond in their structure, and they are called as alkynes if they contain all the single or double bonds but at least one triple bond in their structure. But both alkenes and alkynes together are called as unsaturated hydrocarbons. So right now in the video today, we are going to talk about the preparation reactions of saturated hydrocarbons or alkanes. Let's get started with these preparation reactions. In fact, alkanes are naturally available, but then in case you want to synthesize them in laboratory or at industrial level, we can follow these steps or we can follow these reactions. There are so many preparations for alkanes, but we'll stick to the syllabus and we'll see whatever is required for our syllabus of grade 11, JEE Mains or NEET. So according to the syllabus, we have to study totally 3 preparation methods of these alkanes, of which the first preparation method is preparing alkanes from unsaturated hydrocarbons. So the very first preparation is preparing alkanes from what? From unsaturated hydrocarbons. And the second one is preparing alkanes from alkyl halides. And the third one is preparing hydrocarbons from carboxylic acids. So if you look at these 3 types that you are observing over here, you are talking about the starting material. You're talking about what is the starting material to be taken in order to prepare alkane. In the first case, unsaturated hydrocarbon is the starting material. In the second case, alkyl halide is the starting material. In third case, carboxylic acid is the starting material. But then the point is, after taking the starting material, what should you do so that you convert it into alkane? You take unsaturated hydrocarbon, that sounds good. But then what do you do to this unsaturated hydrocarbon so that it gets converted into alkane? That's what we are writing over here. You can take unsaturated hydrocarbon as a starting material and you can convert 2 reactions. The very first reaction is when you are taking alkene and you are conducting reduction. So the first reaction is reduction of alkene. So you can take unsaturated hydrocarbon to be alkene and you can conduct reduction of alkene so that you produce alkane. And in the second type, you are taking alkyne as a starting material and you are conducting reduction of alkyne. So in the first preparation that you have listed over here, you have to take unsaturated hydrocarbon. That unsaturated hydrocarbon can be alkene or that can be alkyne, and you would have to conduct a reduction of alkene or reduction of alkyne so that you have alkane produced. So in the first type of reaction, you have 2 sub-reactions over here. I hope you are able to understand what it is. This flowchart is just to give you an outline of what all reactions are we going to discuss, but we are going to talk about each and every reaction in detail, taking at least 2 examples. Alright, so moving on to the second one. The second reaction is when you take alkyl halide as a starting material. So preparing alkane from alkyl halide. And what do you do to this alkyl halide, which is a molecule, which is an organic molecule containing halogen functional group. So what do you do to this organic molecule so that it gets converted into alkane? You can do 2 things, of which the very first one is you can conduct a reduction of alkyl halide, and you can convert alkyl halide into alkane through that reduction. And the second one is a reaction which has got a name. We call it as a named reaction. So you can conduct that named reaction, Wurtz reaction. So you can conduct reduction of alkyl halide to produce alkane, or you can also conduct Wurtz reaction of alkyl halides to convert it into alkane. So here are two reactions under second category as well. Moving on to third category, here you are taking carboxylic acid as a starting material and you are somehow converting carboxylic acid into respective alkane. But then how are you doing that? You can do it through using two methods, of which the first method is decarboxylation. Decarboxylation is a type of chemical reaction. You can conduct this decarboxylation of carboxylic acid and you can convert the carboxylic acid into respective alkane. And the next method that you can employ over here is Kolbe's electrolysis. So Kolbe's electrolysis is also a named reaction. It's basically electrolysis of carboxylic acid which can give you alkane. So you can conduct either of these 6 reactions that you see here, taking these 3 starting materials to produce alkane. Let us quickly recap this. We are talking about preparation reactions of alkanes, and alkanes can be prepared by taking 3 types of starting materials as you see. You can take unsaturated hydrocarbon as starting material, convert it into alkane. Or you can take alkyl halide as a starting material, convert this into alkane. Otherwise, you can take carboxylic acid as a starting material, convert this into alkane. If you're taking unsaturated hydrocarbon, that can be alkene or that can be alkyne. There are 2 types of unsaturated hydrocarbons, right? And in either cases, you have to conduct what? You have to conduct a reduction. On another hand, if you're taking alkyl halide as starting material, you can choose to conduct reduction or you can choose to conduct Wurtz reaction. And if you're taking carboxylic acid as your starting material, you can choose to conduct decarboxylation or you can choose to conduct Kolbe's electrolysis. All of this together is equal to how many reactions? It is all equal to 6 reactions. You can conduct reduction of alkene, reduction of alkyne, reduction of alkyl halide, Wurtz reaction, decarboxylation or Kolbe's electrolysis. You can take either of these reactions to prepare alkane. And now we are going to talk about all these 6 reactions in detail, taking example. Let's move to the next page to do this better. So let's get started with the first set of preparations that we have listed. First set is from unsaturated hydrocarbon, isn't it? So you are talking about synthesizing alkane from unsaturated hydrocarbon, isn't it? First of all, I want you to observe this. From unsaturated hydrocarbon, what are you synthesizing? According to the flowchart that we have written in the last page, you are synthesizing alkane from unsaturated hydrocarbon, isn't it? So this basically is preparation of alkane from unsaturated hydrocarbon. From this can we write a word equation like this. I'm taking an unsaturated hydrocarbon, and this unsaturated hydrocarbon is being converted into alkane. This is being converted into what? This is being converted into alkane. So this is basically what we are trying to say here. We are saying that you're producing alkane from unsaturated hydrocarbon, right? But then how can you bring out this conversion? You can bring out this conversion through a process called as reduction. You have to conduct reduction of unsaturated hydrocarbon to get alkane out of it. But this unsaturated hydrocarbon can be alkene or it also can be alkyne. So individually talking about it, you can take alkene or you can take alkyne, your choice. And you have to conduct a reduction of alkene and you have to conduct a reduction of alkyne. And this can lead to formation of alkane in both the cases. This is what you're trying to talk about in the first type of reaction, isn't it? You want to take alkene and you want to conduct reduction of alkene and you want to turn it into alkene. And in the second place, what are you doing? In the second place, you're taking alkyne, reducing alkyne, and it is leading to formation of alkene. So these are the 2 reactions that we have listed over here, reduction of alkene and reduction of alkyne. So what shall we do is, let's take the examples for both the reactions in the next page. Let's understand it better. I'm getting started with the first reaction now. The first reaction is, I'm taking any alkene of my choice and I'm trying to conduct a reduction of this alkene and I'm converting this into alkene. This is the first reaction. But what exactly is meant by the term reduction? And how do I know how to conduct reduction? What are the conditions required for reduction? And how do I know the formula of alkene and formula of alkene? Let's discuss about all of these points now, all right? I hope you're able to follow the speed. I hope you're able to understand what am I trying to explain. But in case of any doubts, please do not hesitate letting me know in the comment section below. So let's take one example of alkene to begin with. One example of alkene, let's get started with the basic alkene, CH2 double bond CH2. This is the simplest alkene possible, isn't it? And now the simplest alkene is trying to be converted into alkane. Fine. But what will be the formula of this alkane? How do I know what could be the formula of this alkane? Always remember, the number of carbon atoms before and after reaction during this reduction that you are observing is same. So in the reactants, you are having 2 carbon atoms. In the product side also, you should have 2 carbon atoms. The alkane that you are talking about should have 2 carbon atoms. So now you try to write an alkane with 2 carbon atoms. You try doing it. Which is that alkane which contains 2 carbon atoms in its molecular formula. Do you write the same thing? Check it out. CH3 single bond CH3. If you have written the same thing, then you are on the right track. Alkene CH2 is being converted into alkane CH3. And both of these reactant and product have got same number of carbon atoms. And as a hint, write it down over here. The number of carbon atoms on the side of reactant is equal to number of carbon atoms on the side of product. And the same thing is applied in case of reduction of alkyne. Same thing is applied in case of reduction of alkyl halide also. Alright. And it does not apply in case of Fuchs reaction. It does not apply in case of decarboxylations and cold-base reaction. So beware of that. Number of carbon atoms is same for what? For alkene reduction, alkyne reduction and reduction of alkyl halides. Now let's move on. So here you have CH2 being converted into CH3. But then how does this conversion happen? Through reduction. Keep this reduction term aside. Just observe the molecular formulae first of all. This is C2H4 and this is C2H6. Observe the molecular formula of the reactant and product. Inside of reactant there are 2 carbons and so is on side of product as well. But on side of reactant you are having 4 hydrogens and on other side what do you have? You have 6 hydrogens. So what is the change that you observe in this conversion? The change is 2 hydrogen atoms are added on the side of products. So while the reactant turned into product, you have added 2 hydrogen atoms. So this addition of hydrogens is called as what? Addition of hydrogens is called as reduction. So that's why you're from then saying that alkenes are being reduced or alkenes are undergoing reduction to have themselves converted into alkane. But why is it reduction? Because in order to have this conversion done, you should be adding hydrogen. Adding hydrogen can be called as reduction. It also can be called as hydrogenation. It makes the same sense anyway. On the other hand, this hydrogen that you are talking about, how much hydrogen are you adding? To convert C2H4 into C2H6, to convert alkene into alkane, you have added 2 atoms of hydrogen. 2 atoms of hydrogen is nothing but 1 molecule of hydrogen. Isn't it? So if you are breaking a double bond and if you're converting this into a single bond, how many molecules of hydrogen needed? You would be needing 1 molecule of hydrogen. But what if I have 2 double bonds and what if I want them to convert it into 2 single bonds? Then I should be adding 2 molecules of hydrogen. So basically 1 molecule of hydrogen can break a pi bond that you see here. If you want to break 2 such pi bonds, you need 2 molecules of hydrogen. It's that simple, all right? But beware of these calculations. These are important. Over here, because I'm trying to break 1 pi bond or 1 double bond between both the carbon atoms, you would be needing how much? 2 hydrogen atoms, which is equal to 1 hydrogen molecule. And hydrogen is a gas at room temperature. H2 dihydrogen is a gas at room temperature. Because it is a gas, its reactivity is so very less, and that's why whenever you're adding hydrogen, you need a catalyst and you also need high temperature. So this reduction that you see here happens at high temperature in presence of a catalyst. And addition of hydrogen is very well supported by nickel. If nickel is not available, you can take platinum or palladium as well. So the catalyst that you're using over here is nickel. If not, platinum or palladium also makes sense. You're converting alkene into alkane and this alkene gets converted into alkane by addition of hydrogens, and you call this addition of hydrogens as reduction, and this reduction requires 2 atoms of hydrogen to break 1 pi bond, and this reduction requires presence of a catalyst and high temperature because hydrogen is less reactive. And when you employ all of these conditions, you will have the alkene getting converted into alkane. I hope you could understand this, but let's take one example to get this better. This time let us take CH2 single bond, no, CH3 single bond, CH double bond, CH2. And I want you to add one molecule of hydrogen to the starting material in presence of nickel catalyst, and also you are heating the reactants. I want you to try and write the products over here. Pause the video if required. Try write the products on your own. Organic reactions are learnt only and only when you practice them along with listening. So do that now. Hoping that you have tried, you have paused the video and you have tried. I'm writing the answer over here. You are talking about adding hydrogen, so you call this reaction as reduction or hydrogenation. In this reduction, you have to be breaking the double bond that you see here. If you're breaking one bond, you need two hydrogen atoms, and you have it over here. You have two hydrogen atoms. One hydrogen is added to the carbon and other hydrogen is added to this carbon. So if the double bond is breaking, you have to give one hydrogen each to both the carbon atoms involved in that double bond. And this leads to formation of what? This leads to formation of CH3, CH single bond CH2, and you have added a hydrogen newly over here. You have added a hydrogen newly over here. This molecule together can be written as CH3, CH2 single bond CH2. This is nothing but propane. And how did you synthesize this propane? For that you have taken propene, right? You have taken propene and you have added one molecule of hydrogen. You have let this undergo reduction in presence of a catalyst, and that's when you have propane. And propene is nothing but what? It's nothing but alkene, and propane is nothing but alkane. So basically you have learned how to convert alkene into alkane. But one point that you need to remember over here is this: if you are breaking one double bond, add one molecule of hydrogen. If I have two double bonds, I should be adding two molecules of hydrogen. If I have 100 double bonds, I need 100 molecules of hydrogen. So be careful about these numbers, all right? Hoping you have understood the first preparation. I'll take you to the next one. But before that, let's take a look at the flow chart. We're talking about preparation of alkane from unsaturated hydrocarbon. We spoke about how to convert alkene into alkane using reduction, right? Now we have alkyne. Alkyne also is unsaturated hydrocarbon. Let's see how to reduce alkyne. Let's get started. So the second reaction that we're talking about is converting alkyne into alkane. And how do we do this conversion? To understand this, we need to take one example of alkyne. I'll take the basic alkyne, CH triple bond CH, and this has got two carbon atoms. Because the number of carbons on the side of reactants and product is same for the reduction of hydrocarbons, I'll take a alkane which contains the same number of carbon atoms, and I'll write its formula, which is CH3 single bond CH3. So basically I'm intending to convert CH into CH3. When I look at the formula, I see that it is C2H2 and I see that it is C2H6. And to bring out this conversion, what all changes should I make? There are two carbons, so I don't need to change the number of carbon atoms. And there are two hydrogens on the left hand side, but 6 hydrogens on the right hand side, which is I have to be adding 4 hydrogen atoms. So 2 hydrogen atoms is equal to 1 hydrogen molecule. If I have 4 hydrogen atoms, it means 2 hydrogen molecules. Because you're trying to break two bonds over here, the first pi bond and the second pi bond. For one bond, you need 2 hydrogen atoms. You're breaking 2 bonds together, so you need 4 hydrogen atoms, which is equal to 2 hydrogen molecules. So over here, you have to add 2 hydrogen molecules. And since you are adding hydrogen, you call the process as reduction. You also can refer to this as hydrogenation. But either ways, this reaction is catalyzed in presence of nickel. So you can take nickel, if not platinum or palladium, at high temperature. And this reaction leads to conversion of alkyne into alkane. This is very similar to what we have learned in the last page. But then the point is, over here, you are adding more number of hydrogen atoms because you're breaking 2 double bonds or 2 pi bonds at one stretch. Let's take an example to get this better. CH3C, triple bond CH. I want you to convert this molecule into the respective hydrocarbon in presence of hydrogen and nickel at high temperature. And I have 2 questions for you from here. Question number 1 is, what is the product? And question number 2 is, how many hydrogen molecules, I'm talking about molecules, how many hydrogen molecules did you consider over here, did you need over here to bring out this conversion? Pause the video, try working out on this reaction. Hoping that you have done it, I'm writing the answer over here. Since I'm adding hydrogen, I'll be breaking the first pi bond over here, and I'll also be breaking the second pi bond over here, because I'm expected to convert this molecule, which is what, propyne, into respective alkane, isn't it? Respective as in 3 carbon atoms is in propyne. So I should convert this into a alkane which contains 3 carbon atoms, and its formula is got to be CH3, CH2, CH3. To have this conversion done, how many hydrogens should I be adding? I should be adding 2 hydrogens to this carbon, and I should be adding 2 hydrogens to this carbon, correct? Which means I have a requirement of 2 plus 2, 4 hydrogen atoms, which altogether is equal to how much? 2 molecules of hydrogen. So I should take 2 molecules of hydrogen over here. And when I break the bonds, I'll be having 1 hydrogen added here first, and then here 1, followed by another hydrogen added to the same carbon atoms. That's how I'll be able to bring out this conversion of propyne into propane. So in case of conversion, or in case of reduction of alkyne into alkene, what are we doing? We are breaking both the bonds that you see in a triple bond. This bond that you see here is called as a pi bond. You know that, right? In between any two atoms, the first one formed is a sigma bond. Uske baad mein jo form hota hai, you call it as pi bond. The third one is also pi bond. For breaking one bond, 2 hydrogen atoms are needed. If you want to break 2 pi bonds, how many hydrogen atoms? You would be needing totally 2 molecules of hydrogen atoms, which is for 2 molecules of hydrogen or 4 atoms of hydrogen. Okay? I hope you could understand this. This is the first way of preparing what? This is the first way of preparing hydrocarbon alkane from its corresponding unsaturated hydrocarbons, from alkenes and from alkynes. And in both the ways, what have we done? In both the ways, we have converted alkene or alkyne into respective alkane by reduction. And one thing you need to keep in mind is number of carbon atoms is same in both the ways. Now let us talk about how to prepare alkanes from alkyl halides. To understand this preparation, first of all, we need to work on what exactly is meant by the term alkyl halides. Let's do it over here. So in the second preparation, we are saying that we'll take a molecule called as alkyl halide and we'll have this converted into respective alkane. And how do we do this? We said this, you can do this with the help of 2 methods. One is reduction and the other one is a named reaction called as Wurtz reaction. You can choose either of these methods to have this conversion done. But then the point is, what exactly is meant by the term alkyl halide? Alkyl halide is a molecule which contains halogen acting as a functional group. So halogen acts as a functional group over here. Generally, we represent halogen as X. So halogen is a functional group and this halogen functional group is connected to alkyl group. That's why you call the molecule as alkyl halide. So basically in alkyl halides, you'll have an alkyl group represented as R and halogen connected to each other. Some examples of alkyl halides include CH3Cl or CH3CH2Br. And now you are intending to convert this into respective hydrocarbon, respective alkene, isn't it? So how do you convert CH3Cl into respective alkene? First of all, what is respective alkene? The alkane which is consisting of same number of carbon atoms as that of reactant. In reactant, you have 1 carbon, so you should talk about alkane containing 1 carbon, which is CH4. So how do you convert this CH3Cl into CH4? They said that you can do this by reduction or Wurtz reaction or whatever, but you observe the change in the molecular formula and you decide what did you do to have this conversion done. You have removed chlorine and you have placed hydrogen in place of chlorine, isn't it? It's a kind of substitution. First of all, you are conducting a simple substitution reaction and the substitution is happening with the help of hydrogen. You are substituting hydrogen in place of chlorine to have it converted into alkane with the same number of carbon atoms as it was in case of starting material. And in the second case also you can do that. You can displace bromine with hydrogen, and when you do it, what happens? In place of bromine there comes hydrogen and you will have CH3 as it is without any disturbance. You will have CH2 as it is without any disturbance. In place of bromine you are having hydrogen. So altogether, what is this? This is CH3, CH2H is nothing but CH3. This is what? This is ethane, correct? And what was your starting material? Starting material was alkyl halide containing 2 carbon atoms. Your ending material is a alkane containing 2 carbon atoms. So you brought in the conversion between the respective molecules, isn't it? So these reactions that you just have seen, the substitution reactions where you are converting alkyl halide into alkane containing same number of carbon atoms, this entire reaction setup is called as reduction. In case of reduction of alkyl halides, you will be substituting halogen by hydrogen, and the substitution is leading to formation of alkane that contains same count of carbon atoms as that of starting materials. You call this entire setup as what? You call it as reduction of alkyl halide. Now you try one example to get this better. All right, so CH3, CH2, CH2, Cl. This is the molecule that you are having. I want you to conduct reduction of this alkyl halide, and I want you to write the product possible over here. Also tell me how many carbon atoms are there in the product. You don't need to tell me, in fact, you can write it in your notebook, try it out, pause the video and try it, and after that you self-evaluate when I write the answer. Hoping that you're trying it along with me, I'm writing the answer over here. In this reaction, if you are conducting reduction, what will you be using? You have to be displacing this chlorine, isn't it? With the help of what? With the help of hydrogen atom. So in place of chlorine comes hydrogen. And then I would have to be writing CH3, CH2, CH2 as it is. There's no change in this area. The only change you see is over here. In place of chlorine, you have a hydrogen. And this molecule is nothing but CH3, CH2, CH3. I call it as propane. There are 3 carbon atoms in this molecule. And how many carbons you have in the starting material? 3 carbon atoms in the starting material as well. So you're converting alkyl halide through reduction into respective alkane. But there are 2 points that you need to know over here. Point number 1, what is happening to chlorine? You are saying that chlorine is going out, right? What is happening to the chlorine? Chlorine gets out and it combines with another hydrogen atom and it leads to formation of HCl. So HCl is released over here. In all the cases, HCl is the byproduct when you are conducting reduction of alkyl halide. And the second point that you need to know is, where are you getting these hydrogens from? You have displaced chlorine using 1 hydrogen. Then you have combined the displaced chlorine with the second hydrogen. Where did you get these 2 hydrogens from? You are using those 2 hydrogens. You are adding those 2 hydrogens. So this reduction is employed by hydrogen. That's why you call it as reduction, in fact. So you are using hydrogen, H2. But as you know, whenever you use H2, you need to be using a catalyst also, right? So you will be using a catalyst. And the suitable catalyst for reductions or use of hydrogen is a nickel, palladium or platinum. So the reaction is happening in presence of hydrogen and a catalyst, and you're displacing halogen from its position and placing hydrogen over there. The halogen that gets out is combining with the second hydrogen and comes out in form of HCl or HBr or whatever. Take it, since you have used bromine over here, it has to be HBr. So this is how the second preparation goes about. I hope you understand this, but anyway, let me quickly recap before we could go ahead and talk about the next reaction. I'm talking about converting alkyl halide into the respective alkane. Means what? Means the number of carbon atoms in alkyl halide is equal to number of carbon atoms on the side of alkane. And how can we do it? There are 2 ways of doing it. We are talking about the first way. Using hydrogen in presence of a catalyst, we can do it. Because you're using in presence of hydrogen in presence of a catalyst, you call this reaction as reduction. And in this reduction, along with alkane, you have HX acting as a byproduct. If X is the halogen that you're using or halogen that is present over here in alkyl halide. So this is the first way to convert alkyl halides into the respective alkanes. Let's talk about the second way now. The second way is called as Wurtz reaction. As I already told you, it's a named reaction. And these named reactions basically are nothing but the researches conducted by a scientist or a couple of scientists. So there was a scientist by name Wurtz, and Wurtz have conducted a research in order to identify if we can convert alkyl halide into alkane or not using any other way other than reduction. Is there any other way to bring out this conversion or what? Mr. Wurtz have researched, and when he researched, he realized that you can do this conversion. You can convert alkyl halide into alkane, not the respective alkane, all right? The number of carbon atoms on the side of reactants is not equal to the number of carbon atoms on the side of products. The number of carbon atoms on both the sides is not equal in case of Wurtz reaction. Keep that point in mind, all right? So we can convert alkyl halide into alkane, not through reduction, through some other way also. And that some other way is called as Wurtz reaction. And what do we do in Wurtz reaction? Very simple thing. In Wurtz reaction, we will be taking 2 moles of alkyl halide and we will be reacting this with 2 moles of sodium. Because sodium is very vigorously reactive to atmospheric oxygen and moisture, we have to make sure the reaction is conducted in presence of dry ether. Dry ether over here is acting as a solvent, all right? This is not a catalyst, this is a solvent. So you take dry ether, which is a liquid, which is non-watery liquid, and you have to immerse sodium into that so that sodium is not reacted with something else like moisture or oxygen. And then you have to add alkyl halide to that. When you treat them in 2:2 ratio, remember it's not 1:1. You have to take 2 moles of alkyl halide and 2 moles of sodium. And when you heat them together in presence of dry ether, that's when you will be able to produce alkane. But how does it happen? To understand that, we have to take an example. So I'm taking an alkyl halide CH3Cl and I'm taking 2 moles of it. CH3Cl taken 2 moles. And similarly, I'm taking sodium of how many moles? I'm taking sodium of 2 moles. So now what happens when you heat 2 moles of alkyl halide in presence of 2 moles of sodium and dry ether is the bond between CH3Cl breaks down. And the Cl that you see over here combines with sodium, leading to formation of NaCl. And the same thing happens in case of second molecule also. So 2 moles of NaCl is produced. And now you will be having CH3 radical and CH3 radical. These two combine with each other, leading to formation of CH3 single bond CH3. So in short, what just have happened, the hydrocarbon part of these alkyl halides have combined with each other, leading to formation of an alkane, and the rest of the agents combine with sodium, leading to formation of sodium halides. So this is what is called as Wurtz reaction. Wurtz reaction is a way too simple preparation of alkanes, which is efficient as well. And it's very important in exam point of view. Let it be mains, NEET, or maybe your school annual examinations. This particular reaction is so very important. So I want you all to focus on this and learn it. Let's take one more set of examples to get this better. I'm talking about Wurtz reaction. Wurtz reaction is nothing but conversion of alkyl halide into alkane. But then alkane and alkyl halide that you're talking about do not contain same number of carbon atoms. Look at this. Here each of your alkyl halide was containing 1 carbon atom and your alkane produced is containing 2 carbon atoms, right? And don't have a misconception that it will be double of the carbon atoms. No, always double is not possible. Let's take one example to get this better. Alkyl halide being converted into alkane in presence of 2 moles of sodium and dry ether is called Wurtz reaction. And along with this alkane, you will be having NaX also produced in 2 moles. So over here, we are taking CH3Br as the first alkane, CH3CH2Cl as the second alkyl halide. You're taking 2 moles of sodium. Now, if your doubt is if we can take 2 different alkyl halides over here, why not? We can take. There's no constraint about you should take 2 same alkyl halides or you should take 2 different alkyl halides or you should take 2 same halides. No, you can take anything. You just need to have an alkyl halide, that's it. Now your halogen can be chlorine, bromine, iodine. Now your alkyl group can be methyl group, propyl group or whatever, all right? So over here, the bond between carbon and the halogen breaks down. Bromine combines with sodium, leading to formation of NaBr. Chlorine combines with the second sodium, leading to formation of NaCl. You have a methyl radical and you have an ethyl radical, which bond with each other, leading to formation of CH3CH2CH3. And this is called as propane. Now, if you look at the number of carbon atoms on both the sides, on the left hand side, you are having 1 carbon atom in the first molecule, 2 carbon atoms in the second molecule. And on the second side, you're having 3 carbon atoms, right? So number of carbon atoms on both the sides is not equal in case of Wurtz reaction, all right? So this is what is Wurtz reaction, conversion of alkyl halide into alkane. So with this, we completed the second way of preparing. Second way of preparing what? Second way of preparing hydrocarbon, alkane. So over here, we are talking about preparation reactions of alkanes. You can do it using 3 starting materials. First one, unsaturated hydrocarbon. Second one, alkyl halide. If you take unsaturated hydrocarbon, you just have to conduct reduction through adding hydrogen in presence of a catalyst. And if you're taking alkyl halide, you can conduct reduction in presence of a catalyst, or you also can conduct Wurtz reaction. And we studied all these 4 reactions with examples. I hope you could understand them. But in case of any doubts or any questions, please make sure you let me know what your doubts are in the comment section below. Question number 3. Preparing alkanes from carboxylic acids. You can take carboxylic acid as a starting material and you can convert this carboxylic acid into alkane through decarboxylation or through Kolbe's electrolysis. So let's talk about both of these reactions in one other page. Here, getting started with preparation number 3, in which I'm taking carboxylic acid, and this carboxylic acid is being converted into alkane. And now this alkene and carboxylic acid, they'll not have same number of carbon atoms. But how can you bring out this conversion? You can do it in two ways. The first one is decarboxylation, and the second one is coal-base electrolysis. The second one is coal-base electrolysis. So what exactly is meant by decarboxylation? As the name is suggesting, it is decarboxylation. D means removal, carboxylation is COO group or CO2 group. So when you remove a CO2 or COO group from a given molecule, you call it as decarboxylation. So how does this decarboxylation happen? It happens when you heat the carboxylic acid in presence of a mixture of sodium hydroxide plus calcium oxide. So this mixture is basically called as soda lime. You can bring out this decarboxylation in presence of soda lime and heating. So over here you would be taking the carboxylic acid that you are talking about, and you would be heating this in presence of sodium hydroxide and calcium oxide, and it leads to formation of alkane, and along with this alkane you will have carbon dioxide released. Because carbon dioxide is released, you call this reaction as decarboxylation reaction. I hope you're clear about the point of this decarboxylation. Let's get this better with the help of examples. I'm taking an example here, CH3COOH. This is a carboxylic acid, right? And I'm heating this carboxylic acid in presence of what? I'm heating this carboxylic acid in presence of soda lime. I'm heating it strongly in presence of soda lime. When I do it, what happens? It leads to formation of alkane and it releases carbon dioxide. But then where do I get this carbon dioxide from? Observe this carefully. This COO group that you see in the carboxylic acid is what comes out. CO2 has come out, and other than CO2, what are you left with? You're left with a CH3 and you're left with a hydrogen. Both of them combine to get you CH4. So over here, CH4 is the hydrocarbon or alkene, and CO2 is released in form of gas. And this happens when you are heating the carboxylic acid strongly in presence of soda lime. I hope this point is clear with everybody in the class. And when you look at the number of the carbon atoms on both the sides, over here you are having 2 carbon atoms in the reactants, and here you have only 1 carbon atom in the alkene that you produced. So the number of carbon atoms on both the sides is not at all same when you talk about decarboxylation, when you talk about Wurtz reaction, and that is also not same when you talk about coal-base electrolysis. Alright, so now moving on to the next one called coal-base electrolysis. Basically, coal-base electrolysis is a named reaction, and this named reaction involves considering a carboxylic acid and removing a few carbon and oxygen atoms from that carboxylic acid. So to understand this coal-base electrolysis better, we first of all need to work out on what exactly is meant by the term electrolysis. It's not new, or it's not for the first time that we are listening to electrolysis. We have learned about it in our early grades itself. Like you have studied about electrolysis of water in your school, and then you studied electrolysis in class 11 also, right, in redox reactions. But anyway, we will recap electrolysis in brief. So basically, electrolysis is divided as electro plus lysis. This is electro plus what? Electro plus lysis. Let's do something. Let's not mess up over here. Let's go to the next page to talk about this coal-base electrolysis. So coal-base electrolysis is nothing but electro plus lysis. It's been worked out by a scientist by name Kolbe. So we call it as coal-base electrolysis. So this electrolysis is referring to breakdown or decomposition of a molecule in presence of electricity. Electrolysis is a decomposition through electricity. When you supply electricity or when you pass electricity into a molecule, and when you decompose that molecule, you call it as electrolysis or electrolytic decomposition. But then what are you decomposing over here? You're decomposing a carboxylic acid. You are taking a carboxylic acid and you're reacting this carboxylic acid with sodium hydroxide first of all, and then whatever is the product that you obtain, you will be adding a lot of water to that product. You'll make a solution out of it, and then you'll be passing electricity through this solution. And when you pass electricity, this product that is produced out of carboxylic acid will undergo decomposition. As a result of this decomposition, you'll be having alkane produced, and along with that you'll have CO2 produced, you'll have H2 produced, you'll have a few other unwanted products also. But your intention is if you can produce alkane or not, and yes, you can produce alkane through this process. But then the point is, how do we conduct this electrolysis? We need an experimental setup to do this. Electrolysis usually is carried out in a tank called as electrolytic tank, or you can also call it as electrolytic cell or electrolytic tank. And this electrolytic cell usually will be consisting of two electrodes, and these two electrodes will help you pass electricity and conduct the chemical reaction in the solution. The solution which is filled in this tank over here is called as electrolyte, and over here in coal-based electrolysis, the product plus water, the product of carboxylic acid plus NaOH reaction plus water, this is electrolyte over here. So you will be taking this acting as electrolyte, and you will be introducing in electrodes into this electrolyte, and these electrodes are connected to a battery which is a power supply. So when you pass electricity through electrodes into this electrolyte, the electrolyte breaks down into alkene and carbon dioxide and hydrogen. So the reactions usually occur around the electrodes that you see here. The electrodes that you see can be of two types, not can be of two types, they are of two types. The one electrode is called as anode and the other electrode is called as cathode. So now this anode that you are observing basically is the place where you get to see oxidation occurring, and cathode is the place where you get to see reduction occurring. And I'm sure you know what is meant by oxidation and reduction. Oxidation is nothing but loss of electrons, and reduction is nothing but gain of electrons. And reduction or gain of electrons occur at cathode and oxidation occur at anode. So now technically speaking, the product that you have taken, the product which you have taken as electrolyte breaks down into ions. This will break down into what? This will first of all break down into ions, and these ions will migrate towards the suitable anodes or suitable electrodes that can be anode or cathode, and after that the reaction occurs and then leads to formation of the product. This is how it happens. I know it is sounding a bit lengthy and confusing to all of you, so let me quickly take an example to help you understand this better. Alright, so I'm taking a random carboxylic acid. Let's take CH3COOH. This on reaction with sodium hydroxide leads to formation of CH3COONA. So just observe what have happened over here. You will be displacing this hydrogen by sodium. This hydrogen combines with hydroxy group and gets out in form of water. So these are the products. But over here to the product that you have obtained, you are adding a lot of water. You still add excess of water. And when you add excess of water, what happens? It leads to formation of, it will behave like an electrolyte, but it leads to formation of ions. So you have added water and you have put it into the electrolytic tank and you have passed electricity. When you pass electricity, this divides into ions, isn't it? And what kind of ions will it divide into? It will divide into CH3COO minus ions and Na plus ions. Water anyways is existing, right? That is H plus and OH minus. We especially don't need to write about water. So the CH3COO minus and Na plus ions. So this is anion and this is cation. The electrodes that we have seen over here, anode, wherever you get to see oxidation occurring, is basically something which is plus by itself. It itself is pretty much positive. So it will attract all the negative ions in the solution. So the anions that you see over here, they will be eventually migrated towards whom? They'll be migrated towards anode because they are negative and anode is positive. Opposite charges attract each other. And on the other hand, the sodium that you see here, it's a cation, and cathode is negative by itself. And it will attract all the positively charged ions in the solution. So cathode over here will be attracting all the sodium ions. So the ions which are produced will migrate towards anode and cathode like this. Anions move towards anode and cations move towards cathode. And the reaction happen at anode and cathode. What happens at cathode? At cathode, the Na plus that you see will combine with OH minus ions. But where did you get this OH minus ions all of a sudden? You have it in water, right? You have taken plenty of water. The water dissociated into H plus and OH minus, right? So this combines with OH minus ions, leading to formation of sodium hydroxide in aqueous physical state. And along with that, the H plus ions that you are having, H2O divides into H plus and OH minus, isn't it? OH minus is consumed. What about H plus? The H plus ions will convert themselves into radicals and they combine with adjacent radicals, leading to formation of H2. So at cathode, you get to see evolution of hydrogen. Hydrogen gas is evolved at cathode. Then what happens at anode? At anode, you're having CH3COO minus, isn't it? So the CH3COO minus at anode will get converted into CH4 plus COO, not CH4, I'm sorry. It gets converted into CH3 and COO. These are the radicals. The COO radical will further get converted into carbon dioxide. This evolves, and CH3 radical connects to adjacent CH3 radical, leading to formation of ethane. So the product at anode is what? It is ethane, C2H6. Along with that, you are having CO2 produced. So this is how coal-based electrolysis happen. I know this was pretty confusing to most of you in the class. Do not worry. We'll quickly recap this and we'll take one more example to get this better. We're talking about how to convert carboxylic acid into alkane. There are two methods of doing it. The first one is decarboxylation. It happens simply by heating carboxylic acid in presence of soda lime. And CO2 gets out, whatever is remaining will give you the final product. And we are talking about the next one right now, which is coal-based electrolysis. Since you said it is electrolysis, electrolysis happens in presence of electricity. It's electrolytic decomposition basically. So you need an electrical tank which contains electrodes, cathode and anode. At anode, oxidation occurs and it itself is positive. It attracts all the anions of the solution. And cathode, it itself is negative and it attracts all the cations from the solution, and reduction occurs at cathode. And over here in our example, the carboxylic acid is first treated with sodium hydroxide. It gives you a product. So this product, when mixed with a lot of water made into solution, behaves as an electrolyte. So when you pass electricity, what happens? The electrolyte get converted into ions, and these ions will migrate towards anode and cathode. Then they will involve in the respective reactions to give you the respective products. To understand this, we already have taken one example. Let's take one more example. Over here, we are taking CH3CH2COOH. This is the carboxylic acid. Step 1. React carboxylic acid with sodium hydroxide. This leads to formation of a product, CH3 array. CH3CH2COONA. CH3CH2COONA. Along with it, you'll have water. To this water, you add more water, a little more water, so that you maintain a thin dilute solution of the product obtained over here. So when you add water, what happens? It gets converted into ions. Which ions? The bonds over here break down. It leads to formation of CH3CH2COO minus and Na plus ions. So you have an anion, you have a cation over here. All the anions present in the solution eventually move towards, because they are negative, they move towards the positive terminal, which is anode. So they move towards, or they migrate towards anode, and these migrate towards cathode. So what happens to these Na plus ions at cathode? They move to cathode. That sounds good. But then what happens to them at cathode? They further connect with whom? With OH minus ions of water, leading to formation of NaOH. But remember, this is an aqueous physical state, so you still have ions existing. And the hydrogen radicals of water that you have added over here will further connect with the adjacent radicals, leading to formation of H2. So at cathode, you are having H2 gas evolved. On the other hand, at anode, what happens? At anode, you are going to have the anions migrated to. So you'll be having CH3, CH2, COO minus ions at anode. And these will lose electrons and they get converted into CO2 from here, which is a gas evolved, and you will have CH3, CH2 radicals produced. So these CH3, CH2 radicals that you see here, they'll connect with the adjacent CH3, CH2 radicals, because this is an electrolysis and it's not only one molecule reacting, isn't it? You're taking like 1 mole, which is Avogadro number of molecules. So you have a lot of radicals being produced through this kind of reactions. So these two adjacent radicals connect with each other, leading to formation of what? Leading to formation of CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3, butane in this case. So in coal-based electrolysis, you have 3 products, of which product number 1 is hydrogen at cathode, carbon dioxide at anode, and also hydrocarbon at anode. I hope this is clear to all of you now. If you can go if you can go through this flowchart that we have written over here, the carboxylic acid getting converted into product, ions migrating, reaction and the product. If you can follow this process, you will be able to write the products of Kolbe's reaction very, very easy. So this is how we prepare what? This is how we prepare hydrocarbons. This is how we prepare alkanes, which are nothing but saturated hydrocarbons. So we do have alkanes being prepared in totally how many methods? In totally 3 methods by taking 3 different starting materials. The first one is taking unsaturated hydrocarbon, second one taking alkyl halide, third one taking carboxylic acid. And from each you have 2 separate reactions. If you take unsaturated hydrocarbon, you can reduce alkenes or alkynes. If you take alkyl halide, you can conduct reduction or Wurtz reaction. If you take carboxylic acid, you can conduct decarboxylation or coal-based electrolysis. By doing these 6 reactions, you can turn any starting material that you see here into alkane. And one thing to remember in addition is the number of carbon atoms is same for reactants and products. In case of reduction of alkenes, alkynes and reduction of alkyl halides. And it's not at all same for Wurtz reaction, decarboxylation and coal-based electrolysis. This is all about preparation of hydrocarbons and I hope you could understand this. In case of any doubts, as you already know, put down your doubts in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next video wherein we are going to talk about preparation reactions of alkenes. Until then, it's bye from my side.